What's a toxic trait you recognize in yourself? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. I don't communicate my needs and then get frustrated when they aren't met. I just got frustrated the other day and told my therapist I don't want to communicate to my so everything I want, because then he won't develop his psychic abilities. She very wisely countered that by saying that actually, telling him what I want is the best way for him to develop his psychic abilities, because I am teaching him the kinds of things I want, and now he can extrapolate easier and take more initiative with more confidence. This is why I have to be in regular therapy. It benefits us all. Story 2. Inflexible. I want to do things my way. Trying to learn to overcome this, but old habits die hard. This is probably my biggest one. It's more about time flexibility. If my husband and I are planning to go to lunch, I want to know what time. Even though we live together and have no other plans for the day, for some reason I get anxious if I don't have a plan. I'm working on it in therapy though, and learning to be okay with things going differently than I expected. Story 3. I don't talk about my feelings at all. It's hard to know if I'm sad or mad about something. Absolutely, I have never talked to anyone. I had a roommate for a year. We didn't hang out, but when we were in our room, we talked and got along great. She had these huge emotions. If something happened to her that day, she would talk to me about it, cry, be frustrated, and I just didn't know how to react except to just sit there and listen, trying to show how much I care. She said if I needed to talk about something, cry about something, etc., she was there, and I 100% believed her and trusted her to have kept it between us. I would have loved to share, but I just don't know how. Story 4. I don't set boundaries with people, which leads to me becoming angry with them at a later date because they are taking advantage of my being too nice. This happened in a romantic relationship I was in. Except what I did didn't just bother them. I was unknowingly triggering an unprocessed trauma from their childhood that they never share with me. We were together for 2 years. When I found out, in couples therapy while we were breaking up, I felt like a complete and total monster. The guilt was crippling. I believed I was an inherently unsafe person, and have spent the last 2.5 years in therapy processing and healing from this. I've since been able to come to a healthier understanding of what happened. It's so important to communicate boundaries and feelings in relationships. Story 5. This stuff really drives me nuts. I try so hard to be mindful of boundaries that I will even offer boundaries to people. Stuff like, hey, it's okay if you're not comfortable with that, just let me know, and I won't do it. I won't get upset at you for saying no, or setting a boundary. The worst thing from the other end is that when people do this, you end up walking on eggshells. They seemingly blow up out of nowhere, and you end up trying to guess what will set them off before they go off on you. I end up having to leave relationships of any kind like this, because I grew up in an abusive environment, and the behavior is too similar. When I find myself having to cope through the friendship, it's just not worth it anymore. Story 6. A toxic trait I recognize in myself is being overly critical of myself and others. I'm working on being more forgiving and understanding. My first 2 relationships ended because of this. I pushed them to clean up their lives and get better jobs and behave more professionally in front of others, because I was obsessed with how others viewed me and how they viewed them with me, but they were happy the way they were. I broke it off because I could see that I was hurting them and making them anxious just like me. It did help me to constrict my criticism to just myself and leave everyone else to be happy with what they've got done, even if it internally frustrates me. Story 7. I am one of those people who will jump full blast into a brand new hobby, but then promptly quit when it turns out I am not immediately great at it. This has led to a lot of credit card debt, unfinished projects, and unused stuff around the house. I keep buying video games and get really hype and have tons of fun, but after a few days, I just drop it and move on to the next game without ever touching the other game again. Also did this with Pokemon cards, learned how to play the game, and spent dollars buying singles and boxes and entering tournaments. Was supposed to go to the regional championships with a group from the hobby store, and 2 days before I just got bored and sold all my cards. All of this within 2 months, LOL. Also with Battletech, I bought all of the current manuals, starter boxes, and every lance you can get currently. Only played once, and now I have a bunch of Battletech stuff sitting in my room untouched. Story 8. Narcissism. Didn't even know the term until a few years back. and then I started to learn all about it. Now I realize I have picked up so many traits, I am trying to unlearn them and be better. My mind was blown when my therapist explained that I can still be narcissistic and self-centered even while having a ton of self-loathing and hatred. A lot of people don't understand this about narcissism. The key component of a narcissist is that they are deep down pathologically insecure, so they have to create the illusion, to themselves and others, that they're a super special genius who's never wrong to bury that insecurity. A narcissist is, usually without treatment or a breakthrough, literally too insecure to face their own insecurities. Without that inherent insecurity, it's not narcissism, it's just being an arrogant prick, lol. Story 9. My moods aren't something I always have control of, so some jokes I'll laugh at one day will also hurt my feelings the next time. I could be having a good day, but sometimes my mood just drops. I hate this about myself, and if I fight against the bad mood, I just cry. It's hard to explain to my partner, and it's hard for them to understand it's not their doing. Also, I'm stressed in loud social settings. Sometimes it becomes impossible for me to talk with people, so it looks like from the outside that I'm in a bad mood or upset. I forget things to the point I'm convinced I never heard of the thing or plan. I realize often too late that I am the wrong one. Story 10. I am very controlling and inflexible with my beliefs. I think this is related to my own upbringing with having a disability. I've had very little control of my life and medical health future choices. I have been shut down and made to feel stupid and like my opinion is worthless. As my parents age and lose control of me, I'm starting to make my voice heard. I also feel like it's got a lot to do with controlling outcomes and avoiding getting myself hurt by them. As far as being inflexible with my beliefs, that I think is also a trauma response from not being heard or taken seriously by my family. Because I was always made to feel stupid and dumb, I made sure to always do my research before I opened my mouth. Therefore, if I know you're wrong, I'm gonna fight till my last breath on it. The only way I'll ever change my mind is if they have compelling evidence against my own beliefs. I am more than happy to relinquish control or change beliefs if people prove they're worthy enough for it. Story 11. Unwilling to put work into friendships. Had some sour ones in high school, and just never felt the need to bond much after that. I have a loving and caring marriage, a healthy relationship with family and in-laws, and that's enough for me. Don't get me wrong, I have friends, but I'll never be the one to text first or ask to hang out. I let them know that in the acquaintance stage, so I'm not offended if they disappear. They could call me up years later without contact, and I'll be happy to pick things up where it was left off, but if they never call me again, I rarely ever have a sensation of missing or longing. Story 12. I get very annoyed when people tell me basic information assuming I don't know it. If they were condescending or something, then maybe I'd be safe. But no, I am a massive prick when it comes to this. They're just trying to help, but I always take it as, oh, he doesn't know this, he's an idiot. I mostly blame my mom for this. Slightly related, but what really irks me is when I'm told to do something when I'm moments away from doing it anyways. My mom has a bad habit of doing this. It comes off as trying to hijack the credit. For example, if I put away my own dishes and notice the sink is full, I'm probably going to just wash and rinse all the dishes before loading them into the dishwasher. My mom loves to say, do your own dishes, right before I put the dishes away, which completely floors my enthusiasm to do said dishes. Another one that kinda bugs me is trash day. She'll tell me, like, no joke, 5 times during the day that it's trash day. I almost always take it out about 8 p.m. because I'm still schedule-oriented from an old restaurant job I had. Anyways, I can't walk into the room without being told, don't forget to take the trash out, which again just kills my enthusiasm to do anything. Don't know why I'm like this, but I just am, lol. Story 13. I'm very cynical and mistrusting about people's intentions, always thinking they have ulterior motives when they're friendly to me. Basically, I have no good faith in humanity. Yep, and I bet you're usually correct. Statistically significant. My new husband is a baby deer. He will trust anyone and loves to help. Consequently, he's the one who gets called at midnight to pick up a friend from a bar BC. They fought their friends and got stranded. Here he comes to save the day. Then they want to get food. Once I moved in, I had to put a stop to it, but I took it too far. I told him these friends are using him, and he's not leaving our cuddles to save some bar trash with bad decision-making. They didn't invite him out, and they only called him because no one else will help. It's pathetic. That hurt his feelings. He called me cynical, and I agreed. Our compromise is this. He can save his friends and be a designated driver, but they have to invite him along. He's not a taxi service. Either they are friends or not. No one calls anymore. It hurts to watch because he genuinely cares, and I hate being correct in these moments. Story 14. I never really have strong feelings about anything. I'm very apathetic. I've noticed recently that I also lie compulsively about little things sometimes. I also have a pretty chronic inferiority complex, and my baseline is to assume that everyone thinks I'm really stupid. I also feel like I don't love my friends as much as I should. I could quite happily never see most of them ever again. I relate to this heavily. I just don't feel strong emotions except anger, and it sucks. Although my anger is pretty much exclusive to technical and mechanical issues, technology hates me and I hate technology. The friends bit is relatable too. I have a hard time remembering people when they're not physically there, and I am almost unable to miss people, even close friends and immediate family. When I was around 16 to 17, I took a specific antidepressant and had a huge personality change, for the better. I was a compulsive liar beforehand, and it's like that medication cleared my mind and triggered my guilt. It was horrible. Panic attacks, vomiting, anxiety, the whole lot. I'd never experienced it before and it was overwhelming. However, I saw how lying is unproductive and brought no positives. Please keep this in mind and try to consciously remind yourself not to lie, even the small things. It's not worth it, because when people find out they will not trust you anymore. I will say, I have ADHD, and I think you should get tested, just in case. Medication really does help. Story 15. I smoke about a pack of cigarettes a day, and I hit the bong to go to sleep every night. I'm successful in my field and I'm in great shape, so most people wouldn't know. Way back when I was in my 20s, I smoked a pack or more a day and would smoke a joint in the evening to unwind. I was in great shape. I was in college and on the dean's list. Nobody suspected. This was at the peak of the DARE program in the US. I had an opportunity to get into law enforcement in the tiny little town that I lived in. The chief was shocked when I told him I wasn't sure that I could pass a piss test. I was Leo for the next 8 years and completely stopped smoking weed. I was teetotaling, straight, no drugs, no alcohol. Smoking cigarettes was still kinda accepted, and I kept my pack-a-day habit. To me, the uniform meant that I had to set an example for what was the right thing to do. Having a badge meant that I was held to a higher standard and required to be the perfect picture of a law-abiding citizen. Now I'm old, and rec is completely accepted. The first time I hit a joint after a couple of decades, I coughed so hard that I was one and done, and had the meanest buzz. I also realized quality had made a huge improvement. I keep some around. I smoke a cigar now and then. Life is good. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below.